I want to dive into the LA Clippers here. Who are they? What are they? I think this is a team that I've got a fair few futures positions on already. I've remained adamant as well that as long as they're healthy, when it matters, they're going to be competitive and probably the worst matchup for most teams in the Western Conference. I haven't completely jumped ship, but I can understand the cause for concern and why. I mean, the offense hasn't really clicked yet, even when they are fully healthy and everyone's available. But we need to see more reps there, and we need to understand that the sample size for those guys when they do have their starting five is sustainable for enough possessions and minutes that it's actually meaningful and worthwhile heading into the playoffs. So when we look at their starting five at the moment, when they are all available, Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, and Ivica Zubac, they're still a +5 net rating differential. So they can still get it done. They have been getting it done. The concern, like I said, is still the offense, where that lineup is only 113.7 points per 100 possession. That's not good. That's below league average. That needs to be much better. But their effective field goal percentage with that lineup is quite high. We're talking almost 60%, which is near the 80th percentile. So that's really, really good. They're creating the shots that they want. They just haven't necessarily been knocking them down with consistency. And I think that obviously comes in part when their two main guys are constantly in and out of the lineups. They themselves can't find the rhythm that they want. We have seen Kawhi, I think, return to as close to the best version of himself as we might see, where his on-court presence, his shot creating, his playmaking has been basically as good as we can hope for. He's not as explosive as he was, but I think that that's got to be accepted, that he probably won't get back to that level. Defensively, though, this starting five is pretty fantastic. We're talking 109 points per 100 possession, 52% effective field goal percentage being allowed. They are in the 93rd percentile in offensive rebounds allowed, a 90th percentile in free throw rate allowed. So they do a really fantastic job in the half court there, making sure to minimize extra possessions, to get the stops when they need to get the stops, to limit opponent field goal percentage, and the shot quality that they're being allowed to opponents as well has been A+. So I certainly think that there is still a very realistic pathway where this team does figure it out before the playoffs come around and then become a really tough out for teams. But I can understand the cause for concern there for sure. Like I said, I still think that they need to get more reps and minutes in together in order to properly highlight, I think, what this team is capable of. But looking at their two stars, like I said, when they're available and healthy, they're playing at a very, very elite level. Paul George in particular, plus 8 points per 100% possessions better when he's on the floor is incredibly high. They are plus 6.7% better with their effective field goal output when he's on the floor. That is the 100th percentile. That is literally the biggest impact for an offensive player in the league for anyone. So that really highlights, I think, his value and why I think the Clippers, especially in the last couple of weeks, have really bottomed out when he hasn't been on the floor, because he just brings so much. He's a three-level scorer. He can get to the rim. He can operate in the mid-range. He's a terrific three-point shooter himself. And obviously having Kawhi and Paul George there together, much like Kyrie and KD in Brooklyn, when you have two guys who are very comfortable operating in the mid-range, very comfortable getting to their spots and attracting the attention of the defense, it only helps those role players, especially out on the perimeter, to be able to get the looks they want, to be able to execute at a high level, because they are getting wide open shots in the spots that they want to be set up in. So those two guys are absolutely critical, I think, obviously, to this offense coming together, but we just need them to start getting reps, I think, going forward, to properly get an understanding of where the Clippers stand in the landscape of the Western Conference. Because when I go through each team individually, even the top teams at the moment in the West, like Memphis and Denver specifically, I still think the Clippers in a best-of-7 series, assuming they are fully healthy, are the worst matchup for both of those teams because of the length and the wings and the versatility that they bring on defense in the half court. And like I said, we've already seen them in half-court defense execute with their starting lineup and with their sort of more preferred rotations, where they are able to remain a top-tier team, I think, in that regard. And looking at that starting five lineup, like I said, so far this season in the half court, we're talking 95th percentile in points per possession allowed, at just under 1 point per possession, which is elite. doing a fantastic job of limiting second chance opportunities, which is obviously critical as well, and maximizing their offensive opportunities in the half court. So when it comes to playoff basketball, I really do still think that this is the team that's going to cause a lot of issues and concerns for teams. Look, I wouldn't expect Zubac to play large minutes if they were to play Denver in a best of 7. I think they get creative in how they execute their rotations there. I think that they probably play a lot of small ball lineups, which isn't really small ball. I remember seeing Batum sort of touch on this, and he said, we play a small ball lineup, which isn't small ball because all 5 guys are 6'9" or taller. We're talking 7-foot wingspans on all of these guys. I think that's what they do with Jokic, where they probably just give him a multitude of different looks and try and make life uncomfortable for him there, get guys that can defend him a little bit more in his face. They might not necessarily have the reach to contest a lot of those shots in and around the rim, but it's more about preventing the ball from being able to get to him in those spots deep inside the paint. I still think, and Memphis specifically, Memphis are a team that lacks that sort of wing presence in my mind. So they're a team that would struggle drastically, I think, in half-court sets against a team like the Clippers. So I'm not out on LA whatsoever. I still think that this is a team that can bring it all together. The hardest part is just understanding what their identity truly is, because we haven't seen enough of them at full strength as yet. So hopefully if Paul George is back tonight, or at least back this week sometime, we can get some consistent reps with him and Kawhi both on the floor together heading into the All-Star break. I think you'll see a really good opportunity as well to start buying on this team in the short term. Ty Lue's already spoken about tightening up his rotations. He wants to start running guys out there that are going to get minutes together in the playoffs. So I think that's really meaningful and important as well. So they're a buy team for me in these next couple of weeks heading into the playoffs, starting potentially tonight as well. Like I said, if we do get Paul George back in that lineup, it'll be interesting to see how he performs coming back off of such a lengthy time away, but just his impact immediately on the floor for the Clippers offense should work in a pretty big way. So I do have value as well towards the over in that game, largely on the back of whether Paul George plays or not, and the Clippers being able to generate and hit the shots that they should be hitting as a result. So that's where I stand on the Clippers at the moment. They're a team I definitely want to revisit with a couple of guys and a couple of guests going forward who are both really high on them and really low on them as well, so that we can get a really good understanding of exactly who they are, what we can expect from them going forward.